Hey everybody, welcome back to Inspire World Podcast. My name's Caleb, his name's Chris. Today we're going to be talking out of Genesis 22. And this is about when God told Abraham to sacrifice up his son and see what he was going to do, if he was actually going to do it. I'm about to find out. So chapter 22. And it came to pass after these things, God did tempt Abraham and said unto him, Abraham, and he said, Behold, here I am. And he said, Take now thy son, thine only son, Isaac, whom thou lovest, and give thee into the land of Moriah, and offer him there for a burnt offering upon one of the mountains which I tell thee of. And Abraham rose early in the morning, and saddled his ass, and took 2 of his young men with him, and Isaac his son, and they clave the wood for the burnt offering, and rose up and went to the place of which God had told him. And then on the 3rd day, Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw a place afar off. And Abraham said unto his young men, Abide ye here with the ass, and I, lad, will go yonder and worship and come again to you. And Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it upon Isaac his son, and he took the fire in his hand and a knife, and they went, both of them together. So, it's all a test for Abraham to see what he was going to do for God. God told him to go offer up thy son to see how great a faith that he had. And you can tell that Abraham has a lot of faith because of what he's about to do. And just imagine the Lord telling you to give your son to him, or any of your children. And back then, they did offerings, but Jesus is our offering now when he died on the cross, so we ain't got to worry about doing offerings. But the Lord told him to offer up his child to him, and it takes a lot of faith to do that.
Well, you have to remember that Isaac, or Abraham, was like old. He's up in his age. I think he was like 70 or 80 when Isaac was born. And so now he's a young lad, so he's probably in the teens. So that shows you how older Abraham is. Abraham has been waiting for this son because the Lord promised him a son. And finally he gave him a son. So now he's asking him to offer him up as a sacrifice. And so that shows the great faith that Abraham had. He finally got the son that the Lord had always told him that he would have. And then now he wants you to sacrifice him. And Abraham didn't question the Lord when the Lord called his name. He didn't. He said, Here am I, and take thy son, their only son. So he knew he was the only son he had. And take him and offer him up as a sacrifice. And of course, Abraham did exactly what the Lord told him because he had great faith. And he knew that the Lord was going to take care of him. He knew, he had so much faith that if I offer up my sacrifice my son, the Lord is going to give him back. And so Abraham followed the Lord. And of course, the sad thing is for Isaac, he had to tote his own wood on his way to be sacrificed. And obviously, Isaac didn't have a clue what was going on. But Abraham knew the Lord's got it all worked out, so he knew everything was going to work according to what God told him. But it just shows the great faith that Abraham had.
And Isaac spake unto Abraham his father, and said, My father, here am I, and he said, Here am I, my son. And he said, Behold the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for a burnt offering? And Abraham said, My son, God will provide himself a lamb for a burnt offering. So they went, both of them together. And they came to the place which God had told him of. And Abraham built an altar there, and laid the wood in order, and bound Isaac his son, and laid on him the altar upon the wood. And Abraham stretched forth his hand, and took the knife to slay his son. And the angel of the Lord called unto him out of heaven, and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, Here am I. And he said, Lay not thine hand upon the lad, neither do thou anything unto him. For now I know thou fearest God, seeing thou hast withheld thy son, thine only son, for me. And Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold him a ram caught in the thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered him a burnt offering in the stead of his son. And Abraham called the name of that place Jehovah Jireh, and it is said to this day, in the mountain of the Lord it shall be seen. So, as he was about to slay his son right there on the offering, before he got down on him, the Lord said, "Don't do it." Now you know that. Now we know that you fear God. So, the Lord gives us tests in our life to see how good a faith we have, and this is a perfect example. But He just tests you to see how much faith you have, and to see.
Yeah, see if you're going to listen to the Lord. See if you're going to, trust in God. Trust in the God that you serve. He told him to bound him up. And of course, it's obviously God had all this already under control, had everything worked out, because what teenager is going to allow somebody to tie them down and know that he's fixing to slay them? So obviously the Lord had control of the whole situation. But he's seen Abraham's great faith, because Abraham, at the minute he was fixing to sacrifice his son, the Lord stopped him. At that point, he's seen the faith that Abraham had. And that's all he was doing. He was trying to see if Abraham was going to do what the Lord told him to do. The Lord he knew if he took his son's life, God was going to give it back to him, because he promised him that son. And so Abraham passed the test. And, we go through tests each and every day of our lives. Every day is a test, or, is a blessing or a lesson. We go through tests each and every day. So, the Lord is watching us and see if, how we do. It's like going to school. You take tests. You study you study so long through school, so much through the year, and then you take your quarterly exams, or, into the grade period exams and into the year exams. And those tests are to show you what you've learned throughout the year. Well, in life, the Lord brings us to tests, and to see how we're going to pass them, see if we've listened, if we trust the Lord, if we depend on the Lord. And so we go through life, and the Lord gives us tests, and He's seeing if we're going to follow those tests, and how well we're going to do with those tests. And are we going to trust the Lord, or are we going to trust ourselves? And we need to be like Abraham, have the faith that Abraham had, and trust the Lord, and to know the Lord's not going to lead you the wrong way. He's not going to lead you and cause you to do anything evil. The Lord doesn't tempt you, but He will test your faith. So if the Lord is testing you, He's trying to see how strong you are, trust the Lord.
And if you do right, He's going to bless you, just like He did Abraham right here. And the angel of the Lord called unto Abraham out of heaven the second time, and said, By myself I have sworn, saith the Lord, for because thou hast done this thing, and hast not withheld thy son, thine only son, that in blessing I will bless thee, and in multiplying I will multiply the seed as the stars of the heaven, and the sand which is upon the seashore. And thy seed shall possess the gate of his enemies. And in the seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because thou hast obeyed my voice. So Abraham returned unto his young men, and they rose up together to Beersheba, and Abraham dwelt at Beersheba. So Abraham listened, and now he's the patriarch of all Israel, all the 12 tribes. He's the one. They go through him because he obeyed God at the time.
Because of his faith, and because of Abraham's faith, Israel is receiving the blessings through Abraham. And even when you accept Jesus Christ and you become a child of God, you're adopted into that family. So now you're receiving those blessings as well. And it's all because of the faith that Abraham had. Because He said He will bless them as the stars in the heaven. And Israel's still being blessed. The children of Israel, all Abraham's offsprings, they're being blessed. And because we accept Jesus, we're adopted into that family, and we receive those blessings as well. So, and also just an little side note, that Isaac basically was a forerunner, is like a type of sacrifice, a forerunner of Jesus Christ. Abraham was to sacrifice his son for
Only
the Lord.
son.
His only son, and of course God, the Son of God, Jesus Christ, was the only son, and of course he was offered up as a sacrifice for us. So it was just a forerunner of what Jesus would do for us, and Jesus did sacrifice himself so we could have eternal life. So thank the Lord for that. Thank God for the blessings. Thank the Lord for Abraham. Because of his faith, we receive those blessings today.
And he flows through the bloodline. Jesus is in the bloodline of Abraham, so it all works out.
So have faith in the Lord. Just trust in the Lord. And when you go through those tests, when the Lord is testing you to see how you're going to stand, if you're going to trust him, stand on the word of God. Trust in the Lord.
So thank y'all for tuning in this week. We'll be back next week, and y'all just keep sharing this podcast to everybody else. That way we can keep touching as many people as we can.
Keep it going.
All right, y'all have a blessed week.
God bless you.